Welcome to a new vlog, and in this vlog I want to read 3 of my most anticipated releases of 2025. The first one will be Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I have no idea what this is about. It is a new Emily Henry book. That is all I needed to know to pre-order that and to now read the book. The same goes for Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I just know that this is about a female in the space program from the NASA. That's it. I really loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and Carrie Soto is back by the author. And I also liked her 2 other books, which are Daisy Jones and the Six and Malibu Rising. So I can't wait to see how this book goes and how I will feel about it. Hopefully I will love it as much as Evelyn Hugo and Carrie Soto. And the third book for this video is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. A book I've heard so much good things about, and that was on my wish list since November last year, I think, because it sounded so good, and I finally bought it in May, so I can read it now. So the reading plans for this vlog: first, Great Big Beautiful Life, and after that I need to decide which book I want to read next. Probably Atmosphere and The Favorites for last, but we will see which I prefer after Great Big Beautiful Life. So I will talk to you after I've read some of Great Big Beautiful Life. Ignore my hair, I just came out of the bathtub. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about Great Big Beautiful Life, because I finished the first half today and I want to get some more reading done today. But before, I need to update you, which I will do now. This book is a mix of a cute rom-com between 2 rivaling journalists and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because this is also the story of a really famous woman that is now in the middle of her 80s, left the whole public life behind decades before, and she now wants to tell her story. Her whole family was super famous about several generations, and they had a whole media imperium, and Margaret Ives is the last of her family now. And she searches for the right person to write her life story. And she invited 2 journalists. The first one is Alice. She's our main character and the book is written from her POV. And then we have Hayden. He is the more famous journalist. He wrote a biography before and won a Pulitzer Prize for it. So the rivalry is there. They both want the job, and there's also some forced proximity between them, which leads to our romance. It is definitely a slow burn romance. We don't get much in the beginning of the story or in the first half, because this job stands between them, and there are other things that complicate the situation. Also, it is a pretty common grumpy versus sunshine story. She is the sunshine, he is the quiet, grumpy guy, but they really fit well together, and I like the banter and tension between the characters and how they learn more about each other and how they get to know each other. I really like that they grow a friendship and more over time, but that they don't want to complicate things with the job they have to do. At least they both have to do it for 4 weeks. This is the time Margaret gave both of them before she wants to make a decision which of them gets the job to write her biography. And we are getting a lot of these rom-com elements throughout the book, but also a lot of interview time with Margaret, where she tells about her family history, how this whole Imperium started, and she also tells her own story with a lot of details that are not common knowledge, and she really makes herself vulnerable in that. We get parts of that in interview form between Alice and Margaret, but we also get parts of the biography, or at least what Alice wrote for Margaret to read to make the decision. And I really like how Alice writes this story with titles like "This is what the public thinks," and then a long text behind it, what's the story behind this, which I find super interesting and super intriguing. And I know there are a lot of secrets Margaret hasn't revealed yet, so I'm really interested to see which turns the story takes and how the romance develops between Hayden and Alice and who will get the job in the end. My guess, they do it together, but that's really just a feeling that I have. I won't say if I'm right with this or not, because that would be clearly a spoiler. And I think with that I have told you enough about the story. I really enjoy reading it. I fly through the pages, and now I can't wait to read more. I finished the book and honestly I'm disappointed. Not because this is a bad book, but I said in the clip before that if you've read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you will like Great Big Beautiful Life. And honestly, and I'm really surprised that I haven't seen anyone talking about this. If you have read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you probably don't even need to read Great Big Beautiful Life, because the plots are so similar. It is basically the same story. Yes, the characters are different, the backstories are different, but the plot is the same, the character arcs are the same. So this is basically The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo plus a contemporary romance. And that's the point where it gets a bit problematic for me personally, because I don't want it to read the same plot as this book. And please, spoilers ahead, so don't watch this part if you don't want spoilers for the end of the story. I will show it here in 3, 2, 1. I joked about while reading this to myself that it would be very ridiculous if this would have the same plot twist in the end as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And it did. It had the same plot twist in the end of the book. We had a family connection from Margaret Ives, the person we interview here, to one of the journalists. And at this point I could just roll my eyes, because the similarities to Evelyn Hugo were undeniable at this point. But spoilers end here. Nonetheless, I enjoyed reading the book. It was a pretty quick read, an interesting read. I liked the characters. The romance was okay. I was really interested in reading about Margaret Ives' life, including all the drama, all the things that weren't public for now. So I enjoyed the literary fiction part about that. And the romance was pretty standard, nothing that really stands out for me. And I don't even know what more to tell you about the book, except that I would probably give this book 3 stars, just because it reminded me so much of Evelyn Hugo. it probably would have a higher ranking, so 4 stars, if I wouldn't have read Evelyn Hugo before. So that's it. And as we are talking about Evelyn Hugo and with that Taylor Jenkins Reid, let's go on to the next book. I decided that my next read is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and let me show you the naked hardcover because I think that this looks super beautiful with a quote from the book. And I started this book 2 days ago and am now halfway through the book, 100 pages per day, and it is a super quick, super easy read and a super interesting story because I know next to nothing about traveling to space, about the NASA and the whole training to become an astronaut. So I really like that I can learn something about that here, especially from the female gaze. The whole book plays in the early 80s, so in a time where companies like the NASA were way more misogynistic, and it shows here because the female main character, Joan Goodwin, is one of the first females attending the space program and the whole training to become an astronaut, and she has to fight a lot against sexism and misogyny while attending the training like everybody else. She's not the only woman in this group, and I like that we getting through this whole process of building friendships and really become a team, because that is so important in space traveling. You really have to work together and trust each other. That is so important here. No matter if you are working in the center at Earth or if you are in space, and that shows on the first pages here, because I thought after not reading the synopsis that this will be a mostly cozy story about a woman becoming an astronaut, but this is so much more. Yes, most of the story is the timeline where she attends the training, but we also have the present timeline from December 29, 1984, where something in the space, where something in the space, where some, oh my god, this sentence is so difficult to me. Where something in the space shuttle goes completely wrong. There is an explosion, there is a hole in the space shuttle, and 2 of the 5 astronauts are dead after that, and 2 more are really bad injured. So there is only 1 person left on the space shuttle to repair the ship and bring it back to Earth. The astronaut left is Vanessa, and after the first half of the book I'm getting a lot of queer vibes here with Vanessa and Joan. But so far Joan doesn't know that she is queer. She just knows that she never fell in love, and you can read pretty clearly between the lines, even if she can't see it or doesn't want to see it. And as I said, I really like the book and the story, even if I have a problem with the 2 different timelines, because the vibes are so different. and every time we are switching, it brings me out of the story. Most of the book is the training, the whole drama and emotional damage part, and the tension if Vanessa can come back to Earth is the smaller part of the story. And I don't know if I would like the book better without that present timeline, because it would be more cohesive. It would be the part that is more interesting to me knowledge-wise, but I like both plots, so I'm a little bit torn about that. We will see how I will feel after I finish the book, because I will tell you more about the book then. I have an update for you because I finished Atmosphere, and I can't tell you a star rating because even 2 days after I finished the book, I'm not sure which rating I should give the book. It is not a 5-star, that's for sure, but it is also not a 1-star or 2-star. And that's all what I can tell, because I'm a little bit torn about this story. Yes, it made me sob so much in the end, especially the last chapter. I've cried throughout the last 30 pages of the book non-stop, because it was so emotional and so dramatic. The tension was over the top and I couldn't handle that. So the end of the book was perfect, 5 stars. But in between, I don't know. We had some focus shifting in the middle of the book, from the whole training of the future astronauts to the queer romance. And I don't mind at all reading a sapphic romance. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't like that the focus of the whole story shifted, because I wanted to read more about the whole space program and the training of the astronauts. I was very, very interested in that and was disappointed when the focus shifted. And then my parents called. Sorry for the little break. But back to Atmosphere. I didn't like the change of the focus of the story, but in the end it made sense that the focus shifted, because it made the whole end, the last chapter, way more dramatic and hold the stakes high for this last chapter. All in all, I'm not sure if I like how Taylor Jenkins Reid told this story. I think I would have liked it a bit more if we would have had only the prologue and the end of the book in the present timeline, and not some random 2 chapters in the first half also in the present timeline. That's a choice I don't understand, because I think it would have been better for the story if we would have the tension from the prologue to the end of the book. But it is what it is. And I also had a problem with some details of the story. Like one scene where Joan eats breakfast with Frances, her niece, and she's telling Frances that she needs to eat the eggs after she already ate the pancakes or something like that. And Frances said that she isn't hungry anymore, and Joan insists that she needs to eat the eggs and that they won't leave the diner before she finished the eggs. That is one example of things that were problematic for me. I can't remember the other things, but they were also details to the story. Most of it probably because it plays in the 80s, but I didn't like that from the perspective of 2025, and that's when the book was written. So I think we could have lived without these details, and Taylor Jenkins Reid didn't need to write problematic behavior, at least not in this detail. But I really loved the whole space program astronauts thing, the whole found family theme, the topic that Joan needs to find herself besides being an astronaut, that we get to see how it is to be in a sapphic romance in the early 80s and also working for the NASA. That is not that easy because at this time it was forbidden to be in a gay relationship when you work at the NASA. So it is all difficult, like my opinion of the book. But I hope you can understand my thoughts of this story and that I'm torn about it, because that's it for Atmosphere. And I can also give you an update to The Favorites by Lane Fargo, because I already started this on the side, because you know, I never read only one book. So I started this one, the last book of this vlog, and I've reached the halfway point today. I'm in the middle of part 3 out of 5, and I'm eating this story up. It is super dramatic, super toxic, but I'm living for it. I can't wait to continue reading after I filmed this update, because today is my reading day. We have Sunday now and I want to get this video out on Tuesday. So I have a little bit to read until then, but I'm positive that I can do it because this is so good. I didn't know this before I picked the book up, but it is a Wuthering Heights retelling, and obviously I'm a little bit blind that I didn't know that, because this sticker says it. Part Wuthering Heights, part Daisy Jones and the Six, and I see it, yes. This is the story of Katerina and Heath. They started figure skating when they were really young, so around 6. And the story is starting when they are 16. So they are doing this now for 10 years together. And they are also a couple. In one chapter, Katerina said she fell in love with Heath before she even knew what love was, which I thought was pretty romantic and pretty cute. But we also learn pretty quickly that the first love of Katerina is not Heath, but figure skating. She does this her whole life and she loves it. Her major goal is to attend the Olympics in figure skating, and she does everything to reach this goal and will sacrifice everything for it, except Heath maybe. So Heath is her partner on and off the ice, and they dance together, they attend the first championships together, but they are not that successful yet, until Sheila Lynn, the figure skater in the US, she won the gold medal with her partner Kirk Lockwood, took a look at Katerina and Heath and decided that Katerina and Heath should attend summer school at her academy in LA. So Katerina and Heath leave everything behind in Chicago where they had pretty difficult circumstances, and they fly to LA to attend this summer school. And with that, Katharina gets one step closer to her goal, because Sheila Lynn is the best, her academy is the best, and they can get the best training there. But you can read pretty clearly between the lines that Heath isn't happy about being there, and that she's only doing this for Katharina. And that's also the point where this whole relationship gets toxic and difficult and problematic, until we reach the point where they are breaking up and everything gets to shambles. And after that it only gets more dramatic, more toxic. And as I said, I'm living for that in the moment. I'm not quite sure if I like how the story is told, because this is all part of a Netflix documentary that is now in the present timeline released. And we are following this Netflix documentary throughout the book. So we get the story told by Katharina. I really love this part. But we also have a lot of interview parts from the documentary itself, where a lot of people comment what happened, where we have description what is showing in the documentary, and it always gets me a bit out of the story, I must admit that. But also it helps the storytelling, because we can get short descriptions on what happened before we can continue telling the story from Katharina's perspective. So we can skip certain times with this documentary to then get back to important parts in the story. We will see how I think about that in the end of the book, because I will continue reading now, and I will talk to you after I've finished the book. And I finished the last book for this vlog. This book was a 5-star read for me. Finally, I loved every single second of this book. Loved the whole drama, and if this were made into a series, it could be 5 seasons, because this book was 5 parts. So you can do 1 season for each part, and I would devour this. I would sit down and watch the whole 5 seasons in one sitting. I really lived for this drama, for the plot twist that I sometimes expected, sometimes haven't expected. I also loved that the toxic relationships felt really well done, very realistic and not overdone. And I really love the ending of the book, the whole character development, especially of Katharina. She and Bella grow the most in this whole story, and I had an absolutely amazing time reading The Favorites. So I can only recommend this book. If you love sports romances, you can read this. If you love books like Magnolia Parks, this is for you. If you like dramatic daily soaps, The Favorites is for you. If you love toxic romance, love triangles, this book is for you. You should give it a try. I really loved this. And I won't tell you what happened in the second half of the book, because I don't want to spoil anything. But it was peak drama. A whole lot of sports, a whole lot of romance and relationship drama, betrayals, secrets. We have everything. So this book is definitely my favorite out of the 3 books that I've read for this vlog, which were these ones. The Favorites was the best, Atmosphere, the middle book, and Great Big Beautiful Life, the worst book of them. It was not bad, but the one I vibed with the least. So all in all, a really successful reading vlog. I hope you liked it. Please tell me in the comments if you have read any of these books and if you have liked them, because reading tastes are different. Like the video if you wanna, follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!